Hello. And that's not going to work. All right. Oh, joy of joys. I can't get the computer to stop sending sound to my speaker, which is horrible. And there's a lot of things not working with the computer all of a sudden, and this is when I do a broadcast, but it works otherwise. Are you still hearing an echo?
Not right now.
Okay, I unplugged the microphone. Yeah. It's crazy. It's a crazy day. Maybe it's because it's the topic. I don't know. Cave Hero, yeah. I don't know what else to do. Blog Talk Radio is going to hate me, but I'm going to record this and I'll post it back up later. I could care less at this point.
You sound great. You sound absolutely great.
Well, today we're going to talk about something that most people, conservatives, are very concerned about. Is are we safer today than we were 21 years ago? My answer is absolutely not. I would like to say that we are. I have to plug in my phone, so hold on a second. That's going to be a problem. So I'm probably going to be holding this most of the time, unfortunately. I say we're absolutely not safe compared to 21 years ago. We have biometrics. We have a whole bunch of new toys that sniff out and smells explosives and other things. We do a whole bunch of, we have created whole areas of technology to deal with terrorism. We've created vetting like never before. But are we safer? And sadly, the answer is no. I'm going to be sharing a video interview I did with Todd Bensman, and that's where my video card really went on the fritz. So I've cut me out of the video. But that's just this week. This is crazy. So you're going to see, retinal scanners, true. Yeah, that's what it's usually have, this nice background of green screen. And now you get to see the green screen. There's so much going on in the world. And I do want to start with what I usually do, which is a reading from God's Word. And I just had to restart anything. So just a second. I have to get back there. I had to absolutely restart everything. And I'm just going to, where did it go? The joy of everything changing. All right. So I want to read from Matthew, and I just got to get down to the passage I was reading at. And apologize. Everything seems to be happening at once, and I apologize for getting through this slowly, but here we go. And we are down to, I'm reading from Matthew 28. I'm just trying to get to that verse 1 here, and I just think this is crazy. I don't know if I can't remember if I read it last week, but this part, the scripture just gets me excited. This is Matthew 28, 1-10. In the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Now, this is important to understand that in Judaism, the evening comes before the day. We look at it the other way, but that's not how they look at it. And that's important to grasp. So the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn towards the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled back the stone from the door, and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning, and his raiments white as snow. And for fear of him, the keepers did shake. We're talking about those Praetorian guards. They're scared to death, and became as dead men. They fainted, they were so scared. And the angel answered and said unto the women, Fear not, you. For I know that you seek Jesus, which was crucified. He's not here. He's risen. As he said, come see the place where the Lord lay, and go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead. And behold, he goes before you into Galilee. There shall you see him. Lo, I have told you. And they departed quickly from the sepulchre with fear and great joy, and did run to bring his disciples word. And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, All hail. And they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him. Don't forget that part. He didn't have a problem with them worshiping him. Why? Because he is God. Then Jesus said unto them, Be not afraid. Go tell my brethren that they go into Galilee, and there they shall see me. Death's victory over the Messiah was short-lived. Jesus rose, as he said he would, on the third day. Not even the earthquake that budged the huge rock in front of the tomb could budge that rock in front of the tomb. That was the work of the angel. It was, you have to think about the Praetorian Guard dug that hole just so it would stay where it was. These Praetorian Guard, these are supposed to be the elite. Their legs became so wobbly they fainted. That says something. You got people like special forces scared. When they're seeing God himself, yeah, I get that. I get that. You think about how that is. How would you feel when God shows up walking out? I mean, they watched this guy get buried. They had to guard his grave. And I say buried, they put him in a tomb. They watched it. They made sure that the tomb was sealed. An earthquake comes. That doesn't do it. The angel gets up and rolls the stone away. And then Jesus walks out. Can you imagine what that would feel like just watching that? I get excited thinking about this. I don't care how many times I say this part. And what did the women do? They worshiped him. And did Jesus have a problem with that? Absolutely not. That's exciting. To think that you can worship the living God and and he doesn't have a problem with that, and is what it comes down to. When people ask about worship, where is Jesus worship? You can point this out. It's the big Matthew 28. He rose from the dead. These women grabbed his feet and worshipped him. They bent down. Were they banging their heads on the ground like the typical Muslim? No. They bowed themselves because they saw the risen Lord. And you got to think about it. I mean, think about what he looked like at that point. He was just probably, you would think of light, probably. You would think of many things. But you probably would not think of the things that most of us, when I think about this, it has to be different. I want to get into the video I have to share, which is an incredible interview I did with Todd Bensman. Todd Bensman is former DHS type guy. He's the guy that goes and gets the story. I'm going to recommend everybody go to toddbensman.com. He has a new book coming out, and we're going to talk about that too. This guy is not your average bear. He goes and gets the story. You'll see a lot of journalists, people claiming to be journalists, and they claim they are quality journalists. The truth is, no. Most of them write about something they saw in the newspaper, or they saw it someplace else, and they summarize it, they rewrite it, and they put it in their own words. Todd Bensman is not that kind of guy. He goes straight and gets the story. Now, this is one of the things I love. Not many people can do this. He goes right in, gets the story, and we're going to talk about a few of those. And now, if you've been a faithful follower to the show, you've seen several several shows where that's the story that actually happens, where he actually shares that information. You're going to hear a lot of interesting facts, and I'm just trying to get this video up. And I'm, when I interviewed him, I wanted to talk primarily about the one thing that we should be thinking about: are we safer today? And that was the big thing. And the funny thing is, when I went in and picked this piece up, when I interviewed him, I had just read. I was just talking to someone else about, are we safer? I've been talking to my friend Todd, who's another friend, Todd, who's a Navy guy, and he doesn't believe we're safer. He's served a good long time, and now he looks at this world and says we are not safer. That says something. Now I'm going to just switch over to this. I'm going to mute myself so I can hear this, so I can pump this out. This is an incredible interview with Todd Benz.
Hello, Todd. Thank you for coming back on the Sutlifian Report. I've been sharing your last article for a number of reasons. This last article, 9/11 plus 20, actually provided a lot of documented proof of everything I was seeing and feeling about the present level of national security, which is pretty much non-existent, unfortunately. I honestly had to admit, I never thought I'd be saying we are less safe today than we were 20 years ago, but here I am saying it. And, as I finished saying it, here I am reading your article. I think you just sent it to me that day. And it starts with a well-delivered punch to wake. I love the way this starts. You start out with a piece from the staff report of the National Commission on Terrorist Attacks upon the United States. And it's titled 9/11 and Terrorist Travel. It says this: the success of the September 11 plot depended on the ability of the hijackers to obtain visas and pass an immigration and customs inspection in order to enter the United States. It also depended on their ability to remain undetected while they worked out the operational details of the attack. If they had failed at either count, entering and becoming embedded, the plot could not have been executed. So how bad is it today, given that statement close to 20 years ago?
Well, unfortunately, we are still seeing with regularity the entrance of terrorists, people with terrorist intent and connections, as well as spies and war criminals and all sorts of bad people getting into the country on all kinds of visas. Uh, I'm not saying that we haven't improved some of the processes that were applicable in those days, 2001 and the late 1990s, but they're still beatable. We still are finding these cases, people entering the country who should not be able to enter the country. A recent example would be a British citizen, a subject. We have a visa waiver with them, but you still have to go online and apply and say you're coming from the UK. And he comes into the country, no questions asked, and uh, conducts a terror attack in North Texas. He takes hostages, threatens to kill them unless a certain Pakistani terrorist was released from federal custody in the Fort Worth area. That was a person who was on the MI5 or MI6's watch list and had been, in on the radar of counterterrorism specialists.
That's only this summer, correct?
Yeah.
Wow.
So these things are still happening, and that should never have happened. And whatever else is going to happen, and trust me, we will see some more, is going to happen because there was an OIG, a DHS, or Office of Inspector General report that just came out a week or two ago from the time we're recording this, that said that during the Afghan evacuation, that the administration brought in a lot of Afghans who were never vetted. They just were let into the country without any vetting. And at least 50 of them, according to a different report, had security derogatory intelligence on them about, their risk.
And this was the biometrics that they never even attempted, correct?
Right. 21 years later, this kind of thing is like, what are we doing? How is that sort of thing happening 20 years later? Well, I think the reason is because we don't care anymore. It's been 20 years. Let there be another attack, and then we'll care about it. Until then, we have these other issues that we can politically gain from. So let's get the political gain, and then, we'll clean up the blood later.
Your last book, it talked about how national security was not a political issue. It wasn't a Democratic issue. It wasn't a Republican issue. It was an American issue. And this is just, it's kind of shocking no matter how I look at it. I agreed. I mean, I was amazed because you provide evidence. You don't just say stuff, you provide evidence. And you provided an amazing amount of evidence for both sides, Republican and Democrat, doing what was important to make the country secure. And
yeah, well, the last time that I know of when the country was really united and unified and the polls were all about the same on both sides of the partisan divide was in the year or so after 9/11. Unfortunately, the bloodshed and the attacks brought us together in a way that we haven't been ever since. Over time, the Republicans became the party of national security. The Democrats became the party of, hey, free and easy, complacency like we were before 9/11. They're the 9/10 party. And one of the reasons is because they have this ideology about them that worrying about things like Islamic terrorism is Islamophobia. We can't do that. It's discriminatory. And they've been sidetracked by this really bizarre ideology. And ultimately, I think that we will see something similar to what happened in Israel with this. When the doves in Israel, the Labor Party, the liberals in Israel, started to just be on the side of the Palestinians and against border security until the mid 2000s. And there was this massive spate of terror attacks, bloody, terrible terror attacks inside Israel. And then they were just moved out of power completely and haven't been in power since because of that. They didn't want to build the wall, the separation barrier. They didn't want to do any of the things that you have to do to keep your population safe. I think that's where we are. That it's eventually going to be a circumstance that none of us want, that brings them back on board.
well, you have a new book coming out that addresses a lot of this. And I'm going to tell everybody you have to go out there and buy this book. But I don't want to get out of this article yet. But, oh my gosh. I do want to mention, I want to go back. And one of the things in your article that still kind of kills me is this. You mentioned this guy, Al-Falaj, and the reason it gets me is, and this is where I wanted to go back to that, is because he came somehow on an F2 student spouse video, and I guess what bothers me the most about this, and we're talking 2011. Yeah, granted, that's 10 years ago, and the one you just talked about is only a few months ago. Holy cow. Is anyone, I mean, I thought that there was a process for vetting visas. Is there no vetting being done of the visas?
Well, there are still all kinds of problems with vetting student visas and those are they're called F visas, J visas, and then there's the J2s and the F2s for family members and all the rest of this. And H1B visas, we just had a Pakistani doctor for the Mayo Clinic convicted on terrorism charges. He came in on a on a J visa to work for Mayo. I'm sorry, an H1B visa to work for Mayo. He's a surgeon. They didn't do any vetting on him, probably because he just said, "Well, I'm a doctor." He comes over and he's immediately plotting to use his position at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota to conduct terror attacks. He said, "I'm behind enemy lines. I use this to get behind enemy lines." There was no vetting that went on with that guy's H-1B visa, the specialty work visa. The case that you're talking about, Alaj, I think I forgot.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's a stunning case too, because that guy was in the Afghanistan camps, the Al Qaeda terrorist camps, with the 9/11 hijackers at the same time. And he comes over lying on his visa, on an F2 visa. His wife was a student, so he gets in on the F2, and they go to Oklahoma City. And what does he do? He starts to do a pilot training in Oklahoma City, which is where the hijackers trained. And it was only then, years later, that they ran his fingerprints and found that his fingerprints were all over the camp in Afghanistan. They finally just recently busted him in 2018 and sentenced him to prison. This was a guy who was, and he was plotting to do terror attacks again. So it's just amazing that we are still seeing this sort of thing. And I think that part of the problem is that we never fixed the interoperability, the sharing of certain kinds of data in a systematic, checkable way where you can easily check. You run somebody's print, you run somebody's biometrics, you run something against all these classified databases. They're still not talking to each other, and so you have gaps. And people
wasn't that the original purpose of forming DHS?
It was. And they did do a lot of sharing and extra sharing and fusion centers and the rest, but there are still problems between the CIA and the NSA and the British intelligence services. They call them the Five Eyes, our closest allies.
Yes.
And us talking with those intelligence services in a timely way. And a lot of it's just human error. Somebody just didn't check. They didn't run the database. They have such backlogs that the backlogs become the priority. We have to get these people in because they're going to pay tuition to these universities. Universities don't want any delays. They want their money. So, there's this big rush to clear the backlogs on all these. The companies, the tech companies, want their H-1B visa holders to come in and start working for less than American workers would. And so there's a lot of pressure from industry and universities, and it ultimately has to do with money to hurry through. We've had in the last couple of years probably 20 or 30 espionage cases involving Chinese students who were sent here by the Chinese military to say that they were not in the military and to spy on the research being done in our best, research and development.
I think it was you who was talking about how you could just go on Facebook and find these guys showing
Yeah.
off in their military uniforms in their Facebook.
Right. There are a few of those cases where, they had the name, and all anybody would have had to done is just like Google search the guy's name, and they would have had a photo of that person in uniform from the PLA with the medals and everything.
Yeah.
And the box checked on the application, have you ever served in any military? No. I mean, it's some of this is not rocket science, but I will say this, that the Trump administration put together by executive order something called the National Vetting Center, and I talk about that in the article,
Yes.
the piece that I did toward the bottom. And to its credit, the Biden administration kept that one. I think that may be the only thing Trump ever did that they haven't kept, but they kept that piece. Nobody's ever written about it or talked about it since. In the media, when Trump rolled that out, it was to this widespread disapproval and condemnation that it was racist and it was going to be used against Muslims and all this. But they kept that. And I'm in touch with some of the people that are associated with that, and I have a sense of what's going on with it. And I think that the National Vetting Center that Trump set up offers a lot of solutions out of this mess that we're still in. So just remember, the National Vetting Center, they've got a website and everything. They're under ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and they're trying to create interoperability for different kinds for these programs, the J and the F visas and the K visas and all of these different visas that we're handing out by the millions and millions with no enforcement on the back end. Typically, if you bust your visa deadline or you don't meet the requirements of checking in and reporting, there's like nobody there to care. In a lot of cases, it's a big problem.
That is, if we don't enforce things, it's
Yeah.
just like it's like Democrat run states. If you don't report for trial, what are they going to do? And I hate to put it that way, but I live in Libland, New York, and they let people out as soon as they catch them. And
Everywhere.
yeah, I was just hearing about a case in Tennessee this very week where a man came to someone's door, threatened to kill them. The cops said, "Look, normally we would put this person in jail this night. However, due to the political climate, if we press charges on him, it won't make a difference. He will never be prosecuted." Like, yeah, this is a friend of mine who got threatened. This is in Nashville. And yeah.
Well, I live in Austin, and I have a police officer friend, Austin Police, who was telling me, nobody wants to charge anybody with anything because they just get let out immediately and charges dismissed. Why should we waste our time? And serious violent crimes.
Yes. We can't be safer now. If we're not safer today, is there? I know your next book says a lot. Can you tell us a little bit more about your next book? I'm really excited. I personally would like to have it today, but I have to wait. But
thanks for asking. It's really has just been open for pre-orders, so I can actually talk about it now. But it's called Overrun: How Joe Biden Unleashed the Greatest Mass Migration Crisis in American History. And it's being published by Post Hill Press. And there are chapters in there about the international flavor of the mass migration hitting our border from 150 different countries, coming from all nations of the Middle East and Africa, and that we are going to be facing very serious, in the coming years, national security threats as a result of this. We've had 66 people on the terror watch list cross that border and get caught, thankfully, just in the fiscal year 2022 so far.
Oh wow.
We had a bunch last year, 16, I believe. Uh, I mean, between last year and so far this year, I mean, we've got like 80 guys terror watch list, and so we also have people coming from places like Liberia, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, places like Congo, where they are tribal militias that are just slaughtering people everywhere. We have no idea who any of these people are. They come to the border without any identification, say, "My name is Mickey Mouse," and we don't know if they're a warlord or a victim of warlords because we just let them in. The book is really about how this crisis began and why this thing started. We had almost 4 million apprehensions at the southern border in 18 months. I mean, this is insane. We haven't had anything near a number like that in the history of the United States. This is the rate at which they're coming across the border is greater than what came through at Ellis Island. In another few years, will have been half of what came through Ellis Island legally, I might add, in 67 years at Ellis
Wow.
Island. I mean, was a page in history. Ellis Island is a storied page in the American history
And
book.
Ellis Island did additional things that we are not doing that we could be doing that would protect Americans. One of the
Right.
things they did was health checks.
Yes, they did. And if you didn't pass the health check, you were on a boat back to wherever you came from. Yeah, there's no health checks going on now. And
We would
certainly,
actually, I mean, one of the interesting things is about Ellis Island is if there was a way that we could cure you or help you, and then you could enter the States, we would keep you there on Ellis Island. We would give you the therapeutics or treat you, and then you would be released into the States. So it's not like we don't have some of those talents still, but we're not doing it is the factor. I'm just kind of
that's right.
shocked. I mean, you've even shared about if we're just looking, back to 2020, anybody could come into the States, say they had I mean, and you said the agents, the border patrol agents were going there and they were picking up all these people with COVID and bringing them to Texas hospitals. And
Yes, that was happening for a long time, all during COVID. People coming in over the border who were sick with COVID. Mexican hospitals were overwhelmed. So they called an ambulance at our bridge and they would cross in and the ambulance would meet them and take them to the US hospital. And then our own hospitals became so jammed up that we had to start airlifting them to interior hospitals, which then became jammed up as well. We couldn't move them in off the border fast enough.
and how is this assist? I mean, it's nice that we can assist other countries, but we don't even know who. There's no way to do any vetting when we're doing this kind of work. That's the part that's scary. And do we even? I think the one that got me. I was watching a video of the current head of DHS who couldn't even answer questions about how many people have. I mean, this is the questions on the biometrics. How many people from Afghanistan that we brought in are currently identified as having relations to terrorism? How many of them that are identified do we know where they are? And he wouldn't even answer that.
Right. Well, we did import terrorists during that airlift, just as those of us who were watching it happen said out loud over and over again. Anybody who would ask us, we're saying we're watching what they're doing, and we're like, that's Afghanistan. Like half the population is involved in some way, form, or fashion with the Taliban or ISIS or Al Qaeda or like any of those groups. and fought for them, participated in their attacks, aided and abetted, whatever, their family members. You know, that's not a population that's very clean, so to speak, to just fill up airplanes and drop off here inside the country. Insane.
Is Todd, what can we do today? I mean, I have I have some friends that are running for office in Congress. I know people across the country that want to make America more secure. What can we do? I mean, it seems like the only thing I can say is we have to hope for a red wave, because it seems like unless we change what's currently in power, we're in trouble. But what can we do
Well,
when there is a
yeah, for one thing, you have to be aware of, what is the problem. The problem, if we're talking about 9/11, it's all about vetting. But I think that, a lot of people, it's complicated stuff, so it's hard to understand. So, one thing is to just move information to our world, move the information out. Make sure that your congressmen and women, your people in the Senate and state legislatures have this information and are being squeaky wheel noisy about it. Because there is this national security vetting project that I think is very hopeful. That needs to be maintained. It can't be closed. It has to be resourced. Whatever they need, give them. There has to be appropriations and vote. Unfortunately, if Republicans are the ones who are primarily interested in national security and prevention, vote Republicans. But for Democrats, they need to be persuaded that we're all in this together, man. Your kids are going to get killed just as easy as mine. This has nothing to do with all these other issues. Go ahead and keep your separation on all the issues you want to be, but on this one, we ought to be one unified voice. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be.
it's just like your last book said. This is national security should not ever be a political issue. It has to do with us as a whole, not a little bit over here and a little bit over there. It's the entire country as a whole.
I believe that, but so I mean, as far as what to do is, unless the Republicans which is the party of national security, I guess, unless they are in charge of the White House, I think that we're more vulnerable because the other party doesn't seem as concerned, or are so protective of the minority groups that from which threats come, that they won't dare investigate or put pressure on those groups for this ideology that says, oh, we're just using this national security threat to oppress, which is the narrative out there. That's what their narrative is. They say it all the time. You Islamophobe. You're an Islamophobe. It's about white supremacy, not Islamic supremacy. They'll say that. They say it all the time.
One of the things we've talked about in the past is one of the loopholes that provides problems, but I was wondering if you could comment on the Flores loophole. I think it was the Flores loophole we were talking about.
Yeah, this is a kind of a longer conversation, but suffice it to say that the courts in the Ninth Circuit, liberal courts, some years ago 2015, required the DHS to release kids and families from detention. It directly contravenes the law, which says that everybody who illegally enters has to be in custody for as long as it takes until we deport you. And this judge, her name is Dali G, required that DHS release them within like 21 days. So that means there's a cap on how long you're gonna be in custody with 3 square meals a day. So if you're a family with young kids, you're coming in to get that. You're coming in to get that. You're going to get released. No matter where your case is, you're going to get released. Well, what happens when you get released? You just disappear, man. They're never going to come get you. So millions and millions are coming in for this loophole. And that's got to be closed. That Flores loophole is incredibly damaging more than anything else to the country and to the kids and the families that are coming for it. They're dying in droves. Pregnant women and mothers of young children, floating in the Rio Grande, drowning, dying on the trails, getting in here to get to the Flores loophole. It's probably, it ranks up there with among the most evil policies that has ever existed in the country, and it has to be done away with. It must be gotten rid of.
Wow.
Hello.
Trump came close. They went all the way through the process, and then the Democrats.
Yes, Red.
Sued on behalf of this incredible evil, and got it all the way to the Ninth Circuit again within a week of Trump leaving, and he didn't have enough time to appeal to the Supreme Court. He would appeal to the Supreme Court, that thing would be dead now. And when Biden came in, they said, yeah, we won't appeal. So it survives another 4 years. It's incredible.
Wow. Todd, tell everybody where they can pre-order your book, because I think this is, I'm going to tell everybody, you need to pick this up, order it. We need to get as many people as we can to pre-order this book before the election. Here's why I'm saying pre-order it before the election. Let's convince Post Hill Press to release this book before the election. Let's put a massive order in.
Well, yeah, that's beyond my pay grade. But yeah, I think, if there was enough interest, might help persuade. But that's a production issue I don't know much about. But they're talking about releasing it in December. So, this is information that I think would be very useful for. It provides a baseline for people to talk about illegal immigration and the border crisis that's underway in a knowledgeable way, and it's very illuminating about what happened and why we have to do something to stop it. So but here's the thing: is assuming that Republicans take some control of the House and maybe even the Senate. They are now, the ball will be in their court. They'll have to do something. And I think that the book will come out just in time to remind everybody what the issues are and how we got here, because there'll still be 2 more years of Biden and these policies. So I think the book will still be very helpful for the coming new Congress.
I'm going to be recommending it to the person I think will be my next congressional candidate. Is the candidate, but I'm hoping my next representative, LaRon Singletary, and he's a former chief of police. So when he gets in, give him a call, because I know that he'll stand in your corner.
Well, as far as
when does the book come out?
I'm hoping you can. There's a link.
Yeah.
This came out on Saturday. I don't have it handy, but
I will put it up on the screen so everybody can do that. Everybody's got to, we got to share this stuff out, because this book is important and it can change policy. It's one of the reasons I like Todd's work, because it's so documented, and this is the kind of stuff that makes Todd the college professor. And
I think I have about 700 citations in this book.
Can you guys hear me?
Must love you. Oh my gosh. Oh, Todd, thank you for joining us. It's I would love to be in one of your classes someday, because just the idea of getting this information that has to be out, and I think learning the tidbits of how you do what you do. I mean, how you get this information. And one thing I keep saying, that why I say keep putting you up and telling people they got to listen to you, is because you don't do what the average journalist does today. They talk about things. You go and get the truth. You've been down to the Triborough. That's the right word, right?
To the down on the Darien province.
Yes.
I mean, the book is filled with my reporting from the scene, and it's illuminated most by interviews with the immigrants. They tell you why they're coming and how they hear the policies that are coming out of the White House, and they're like, should I stay or should I go? We're going. And they'll tell you. They tell me all the time why they're coming.
Well, while we're on that, before I let you go, the one thing, it's not that long ago we talked about this though, but there was a time when Haitians decided they wanted to go back. And we're talking about policy, and they're hearing about it from the White House. What did the Biden White House do that made the Haitians want to go back?
Well, there was a moment there when there were political pragmatists inside the White House that were looking at what was happening at the border and, worried very deeply about the midterm elections. And they, began doing Trumpian strategies and tactics to shut it down. And one of those was air deportations back to home countries. They did that. This Biden administration was not strictly open borders all the time, because there was this faction that came in, and they started with the Haitians. They started deporting thousands of Haitians back to Haiti. And when they did that, I was in Mexico on the Mexican side, and man, they came running by the thousands back south over the Rio Grande into Mexico to get away from this thing, because air deportations work. They work. They increase the odds that you're not going to get in. You're going to be on a plane back to Port-au-Prince.
And you got this information straight from the migrants running back.
I was in the camps. I was in the park when they're still wet with all their kids. I'm like, where are you coming? They're like, they're doing deportations. I mean, what else do you want?
And wait, are you saying the Biden administration did not want a bunch of black illegal aliens? Come on, he can't be that racist. I'm just saying, keep the brown people, send the black people back, because he's a racist.
He was sending hold on a second. He was why that? All right, sorry, just a second. He was specifically sending back the Haitians back to and they began to do a return where they would they would fly people back. If you were from this country or that country, they would deport you. Now, he picked the Haitian community. Originally, I believe, I'm saying he, but I don't believe Biden made any decisions. I believe it was those who were in the office working with him. They picked that particular community because if you remember that overpass down in Mexico and in Texas, which was primarily filled with thousands of Haitians, that put them on the limelight, so to speak. And as a result, they took the Haitians, put them on planes, and shipped them home. Now, they spent X amount of dollars to come. And they were very, very upset where they were, in some sense, being targeted. You're coming here and expecting free stuff. That's where I have an issue. it wasn't whether you're white or black. It was where the people were coming from. So I don't think black is a good example, but
Well, no,
yes.
what I'm saying, that's how it should have been spun. How it should have been said. Look at racist Biden sending only the black people back because that's how they colorize everything. You're a pot, or you're a pot plus, or whatever. BIPOC.
Well,
No, seriously,
Biden
look at
is
him
a.
send
There
all the
is
black.
no question whether Biden's racist because that was
Exactly. Yeah.
revealed throughout the entire campaign,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's still evident. Yes.
But no, I guess your guest left. I guess it scared him off. Sorry. Um.
No, no,
But
no. No, that was the end of the interview I did.
oh, oh, that wasn't live.
No, it
Oh, that
wasn't
was.
live.
Oh hell, I thought it was. I'm trying to chime in. I'm like, can't you guys hear me? What? I'm sorry, I didn't know it was recorded.
Yeah,
But
I did this. I had to do this live because Todd is actually a college professor, and he
okay.
does outstanding work. And I'm excited. I mean, when I was saying I would love to be a student in his classroom, I'm not kidding. I I,
Okay.
I think his work is extremely powerful. And the question
Well, no.
remains, Rad, what do you think? Are we safer today?
Oh hell no! I was. That's why I wanted to chime in. I'm sitting here right here in beautiful Chicago, downtown Chicago, right here. And then just as bad as the crime is now, it's going to get a lot worse. January 1st. I don't know if you're aware of this, but January 1st, they passed this law last year called the what is it? Safety Act. Okay, I forgot what it stands for. But basically, it eliminates cash bail. Okay, so if you are incarcerated, okay, before your trial for any crime, you cannot post bond, post bail to get yourself out. Okay, the only way you can get out is on your own recognizance. This is included for people accused of attempted murder. Okay, um, and not only that, but it requires. So it used to be when you went for cash bail. Okay, when you were arrested, you go for cash bail, and you had to prove, okay, your lawyer, and you had to prove that you were not a danger to the community, okay, that you had a job, blah blah blah, and all this stuff that you can be released, and you would come back to court not a danger to the community, if they release you on cash bond as a security, okay. Well, now it's no. Now it's up to the prosecutor. They have 48 hours to prove that you are a danger to the community. The community. The charge itself is not a prerequisite for being a danger to the community. What is determined that the judge has no choice in this. If the prosecution does not provide proof that you are a danger to the community, he must let you go. Okay, on your own recognizance. Now they might give you an ankle bracelet. Oh, that's another beautiful thing. So under this new law, they release you and they give you an ankle bracelet that's supposed to monitor you, right? The police cannot investigate your whereabouts after you go missing or go off your little electronic leash for 48 hours. As one police officer put it, that means you could be literally drive all the way to Alaska before we can even look for you. Okay? Now, this is going to get really, really bad here, especially in Chicago, especially with the radical, crazy District Attorney Kim Fox, who, even with cash bail, does not request cash bail at all and downgrades all violent charges to misdemeanors. So
Wow.
we're screwed, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're screwed.
This is the other aspect when I talk about when I'm talking about being safe. The catch is we have been forced. We used to talk about the concept of being safe as a total national security issue, and we would just be talking about terrorism primarily. But the unfortunate truth is we have to look at society as a whole, and
Yep.
what the Democrats have done is basically open the zoo. They have I say the zoo because what they've done is basically open the jails, open the places. They haven't been prosecuted yet, so we're letting them go home. Wait a minute, the people who were witnesses against them start to disappear. And these things are, I mean, this is the horrible thing. They get scared. They won't testify because now these people are out where they used to be locked up. I have a friend this very week. I mentioned it in the interview. This very week called me, texted me and called me, wanted to talk because he had someone come to his door and threaten him and saying he had a gun and he was going to kill him. And
Wow.
I I'm more, when I think about that, he has a wife at home. and he had a knife on him, and he was going to go everything he could to take care of that guy. He let the guy see the knife. All of a sudden, the guy steps back. Oh, I think I'm going to get hurt if I mess with this guy. So he backs off, and then he runs away. Okay, problem. You still have to call the cops because he's running around threatening people. What if he kills somebody because you said nothing? So this gentleman realized that, called the cops. The cops came. They eventually found this guy. And then they didn't want to arrest him because the attorney general district attorney would just let him go. Like, we used to just, put these guys in, lock them up and throw away the key type concept. But, this guy is a danger to himself and others. He's going to be a danger to himself. He's going to take somebody on with a knife. He decided to back off. But when you're doing stupid things to people you don't know, you're a danger to yourself. That's what it comes down to. And yeah.
Well, here's another part to that Safety Act. Trespassing is now, they cannot remove a trespasser. It is now just a citation. Okay? So in other words, so a homeless dude can just pitch a tent in your front or backyard. If they call the cops, they'll write him a citation. Citation. They can keep calling him every day, and it's only one citation per day, and they don't care. He ain't moving. He ain't leaving, and they cannot remove him.
And that's in Cook County alone, or?
No, that's all state of Illinois. So I'm serious.
Wow.
I'm looking to research that, and I'm seeing if that's going to hold up. Because if it is, I am telling you right now, I am throwing a party at one of these lefty judges or one of these lefty DAs or one of these lefty politicians who voted for this crap. We are throwing a party. We're going to make a mess of their multi-million-dollar home. I am 100% serious on this. We're going to live stream it. We're going to have a band. We're going to do a pig roast, a kegger, and then we're going to leave after a couple of days and just leave one big mess. Tear up their lawn. I don't care, dude. You know what I mean? Seriously, that is my goal for the summer of 2023.
Wow. And one of the goals of these laws, the goals are to disrupt the safety and security of Americans. That's what it comes down to. And what is the reason for that? These people want to change. I'll put it in Obama's terms. They want to fundamentally change this country. Oh, so what did Obama want when he kept wanting change? He wanted communism. He ran on the communist ticket. For those of you who are unaware of that, he ran on the communist ticket. He wasn't just a Democrat. He ran on that communist ticket. He was also a supporter and believer of Islam. He said that he's the only one I've ever heard that needed defending when he referred to his faith as my Muslim faith. And somebody said, "You mean your Christian faith, right?" Wait, that's not the appropriate follow-up question. I think that was Stephen Papadopoulos, however you say the name. I could not believe as I heard that follow-up question. Wait a minute, why did you do that? If you had allowed him you'd ask him more questions about his Muslim faith, that could have been quite an eye-opener. But again, I want to talk more about today. Is there anything that shows us safer? Again, we have all these new things. We have the biometric scanners. We have a lot of work that's done in DNA that you can find the links between the relatives of those who are dangerous. I'm being kind when I'm putting it that way. Believe me, I am being kind. We have so many toys that we didn't have in 2001 that are supposed to make us safer. But we can't be safer when we open our doors to 100. We're close to about 140,000 Muslims that we imported from Afghanistan without vetting them once. Now, Osama Dakdak talks about, his family tries to come here. They've been on the wait list for up to 7 years. Again, there's a wait list. So, if we got people waiting 7 years, my thoughts are let's put a moratorium on people coming to become citizens or migrating to the United States. Let's make it 7-year moratorium. Let's let those people get a chance to come in and stop saying everybody can come. Let's just give us a chance to catch up on the vetting. If it takes 7 years to be able to come here, let's get that streamlined. When we get that streamlined, then we can open the door again. I'm not saying it needs to happen today. I'm not saying it needs to happen tomorrow, but we need to get the vetting part done before they become your neighbor. That's the thing to think about. Are you okay with someone coming to the country, moving in next door, and you find out? No, you don't find out. You find out because they decide to kill people in your neighborhood or someplace in the neighborhood that you live. They decide to go, use a bomb to go blow somebody up. They decide that they want to use a gun or a knife or something to hurt people, and again, they've never been vetted. Here's the thing that happens: you find out after these people get arrested, whoever they may be, that they came to the country and they had known connections to terrorists. That's what you'll find out in the newspaper. The FBI was following them. They had been, they've been on their watch list. Really? They moved next door? No one told me? That's the issue I see is probably the biggest thing. Sorry about this. Joy of joys. I'm not used to using the phone. So how can we be safe? Let me just read you a few things that happened this week, and you be the judge. The first one I'm gonna read comes from this is Todd Bensman's. You can go to his page. This came out September 13th in the New York Post by Todd Bensman. Infamously now, former President Bill Clinton's defense for his 1990s affair with White House intern Monica Lewinsky rested on his artful, lawyerly definition of sexual relations. The president cleverly argued that, at least in his mind, he hadn't perjured himself when he denied engaging in those acts based on a pretzel-twisting definition of sexual relations that almost no one else in the world shared. It's now clear that Vice President Kamala Harris is also a lawyer, has plagiarized that page from the Clinton definitions playbook with her recent declaration of NBC News Meet the Press that the border is secure. Almost certainly, Harris has yoga twisted a definition of secure that a few others in the world share, and so therefore she is only telling the truth. Really, think about that. What happens to be a bald-faced lie by the objective standards of everyone else with 2 feet planted on planet Earth and access to the internet browser? The consensus truth comes to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection public databases, which show the apprehensions of illegal aliens on the southwest border have smashed every record on the books by hundreds of percentage points. You've heard that. Hundreds of percentage points. America is in the midst of the greatest mass migration crisis in its history. All of it's traceable to the White House policies. And now, I got to keep saying this. Todd Bensman was, a guy that would say national security, and this is why I put it in the interview. National security isn't Republican, it isn't Democrat. It's something we all should be and are doing. So when you hear him saying this stuff, that's extremely significant. Now, his book is about Biden's damage to our national security, and that's extremely significant because it's not something he likes to say. this is what we need to think about. I mean, national security. Can we be significantly safe when these things change? And I'm going to keep saying no. Let's take a look at this other article I got from the DOJ. Justice, listen to this. New York City man and Alabama woman plead guilty to attempting to provide material support to ISIS. Today, okay, this came out September 12th. That's what, 3 days ago. Today in the southern, so 3 days ago in the Southern District of New York, Arwa Muthana, 30, of Hoover, Alabama, pled guilty to attempting to provide material support to the Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham, aka ISIS. It's very, very important people understand why they said al-Sham. That's the right hand, people. All right. That means they were planning on, or so was it left hand or right hand? I think it was actually the left hand. But you know, the point is that when ISIS was planning on running things, they were planning on taking a lot more than the Levant that was being used for when Obama called it ISIL. They did that to downplay the danger of ISIS. That's another scary thought there. Let's keep going. Designated foreign terrorist organization. On Friday, her husband, James Bradley, aka Abdullah, who was 21, of the Bronx, entered a guilty plea to the same charge. According to court documents, Bradley and Muthana are ISIS supporters who attempted to travel to the Middle East to join and fight for ISIS. Bradley expressed violent extremism views since at least 2019, including his desire to support ISIS by traveling overseas to join the group or commit a terror attack in the United States. In May of 2020, Bradley stated to an undercover law enforcement officer that he believed that ISIS may be good for Muslims because ISIS was establishing a caliphate. Bradley further expressed his desire to conduct a terrorist attack in the United States and discussed potentially attacking U.S. military academy at West Point, New York. You know, that's I live in New York, you know, and I'm glad that he's locked up someplace for now. But under Biden, will he be released? You do know that Biden is currently engaged in talks with people like KSM to release them. Oh, KSM is the mastermind behind 9/11. Really, release. Originally, they were talking about putting them through a criminal trial, serving criminal time. Really, release these people so they can come and attack us again, because they haven't changed their belief structure. They'll say anything you want them to say so they can get out. And when you got a lifetime penalty, isn't that what you would expect? The military doesn't plan to release them, but when the Biden administration tells them to do it, they don't have a choice. I mean, think about this. At present, the Biden administration is talking about releasing all of the jihadis currently there. And KSM is one of the ones they're talking about. Now, that is freaky scary.
I thought he was the only one left. Was KSM?
No, there's at least, I think there's like 5 or 6 others that they're actually talking with right now. Yeah. Yeah, KSM is the hot one. He's the one that, yeah, again, he's the mastermind. People think it's bin Laden. No, KSM brought the 9/11 terrorist attack plan to bin Laden, and he approved it. And this is the guy they want to let out.
Well, he just didn't approve it. He organized it. He was the project manager.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he did. He's the guy behind it all. Now, you know, I look at this also, and I look at Siraj Wahhaj, and I think about that. How best buds were these guys? Siraj Wahhaj went at it from the bottom. He's one of those guys involved in the original attack on 9/11. Guess what? Again, KSM and Siraj Wahhaj had connections to Al Qaeda. So you sit there and you start to wonder, Siraj Wahhaj walks around and he gives speeches, he runs a mosque and things like that today. He has children. The children or the grant have attacked. The child got it. His son got caught teaching children to attack schools. You all remember that? That's what, 2-3 years ago now? It doesn't seem like that long ago. Or is it longer? It's just some of this stuff is just it's got to be 4 years ago now. Some of this stuff is mind numbing when you start to look at it. We can't be safer when we've got 140,000 new people here who hold the belief that Sharia should be the law of the land. That was the purpose. I look at when you bring 140,000 people here, 120, where the figures between 100 is between 80,000 and 140,000. The 140,000 is the high end. I'm playing on that. I'm not going to deny that it's somewhere in the middle there. What was the purpose of bringing unvetted people to the United States? It's actually against the Constitution. And this is another reason why Biden should be impeached. I think his military leaders should be removed for the destruction they have done to this country.
Well, I agree with you that unfortunately, who we're going to get. Think about it. We got to watch it the second time first before we go out there first. Because like demons, we'll get something much worse.
We're getting a little bit too much background noise, Brad. Sorry.
Sorry.
All right. I wish things were different. I really do. There's a Bausch Faustin also has got on the bandwagon, and he's talked about things. He says he did an impromptu. If you go to robertspencer.org, you can see this, or you can go to. Let me see if I can pull this up. He's talking about we're not safer. There's a lot of reasons why we're not safer, people. We've talked about local things. Black Lives Matter have changed the way people look at race. Now you have to be sensitive. I thought we were supposed to be caring only about whether you had the qualities to do the work, not caring about the color of skin. That was what Martin Luther King wanted. We're not doing that. That's kind of scary. I would rather go back to looking at the quality of the person. I never thought of, in my mind, I've never had the concept of looking at the idea that you have to decide whether someone's skin color should give them a job or not because you don't have enough to meet the quota. I've lost a job for that reason before. I was the white guy that got let go so they could keep a person who had a different skin color. I was actually informed of that when they let me go. I was like, whoa. I was like, wait a minute. I do his job and my job half the time because he's not doing it and he's doing something else. And you're letting me go. Well, we have to because we got to meet the quota and we got to let somebody go. So it has to be the white guy. Like, what? Yeah. Some of these things you just sit there and go, oh, that's kind of hard to believe. I'm going to offer something to everybody today. And all you have to do is write me a letter, an email. I'm going to give my email out right now, BEREAN_research@yahoo.com. This is there's 2 documents I'm going to offer for free. These documents are by Dr. William Gothrop. The first one is called Government and Academic Vulnerability to Jihad of the Pen and Tongue. All right. This is an excellent paper that's written. Now, Dr. Gothrop, we've had on the show. I actually talked with him Tuesday. And again, this is an outstanding, important thing that we should be sharing. Send me a note saying you'd like his papers, and let me tell you what the other one is called. Just get there, and I have to get to that page. Sorry about this. Okay. The other one is called The Influence of Islamic Law on Intelligence and Law Enforcement. Now, think about that. The influence of Islamic law on intelligence and law enforcement. And this is where I think his work is outstanding. I write on many things, but I cannot write as a professional on law enforcement. I can't write as a professional on intelligence. I may write some things in that area, but I've never worked as an intelligence officer or anything like that. I can inform people what I learn, but again, I'm not the professional. And this is where Dr. Gothrop does some incredibly important work. All you have to do is write to me. Again, that's BEREAN_research@yahoo.com, and I will send those to you. This work is outstanding that he's doing. Now, what can we do? That's where we have to start thinking. What can we do? We have to, unfortunately, create an overwhelming red wave. How do we do that? And I say we have to. We don't have a choice. I wish we did. I mean, we grew up. Most of us grew up. We would vote for the lesser of two evils. We would go and vote for the person we thought was best. But now we have to decide whether we want to keep our country or let her die. All right. If we continue to allow the people who are running on the communist ticket or the social democrat or democratic socialist ticket as well. Now, these are people who want to damage our country. I'm not even getting into the topic of Islam yet. 40 or 50 candidates won their election in the last primaries, during the primaries here. I think it was 40. I think it was 43 some candidates. These are lovers of Sharia we're talking about. Include Dr. Oz in there. He will tell you he doesn't. Yet he worked for the Pakistani military. He signed up. Can you tell me, as an American citizen, he signed up? And now he's running for office. We have to, the unfortunate truth here is, I've had long discussions with some people on this topic. I would rather not vote for him. I'd rather not vote for, again, I am thankful I don't live in Pennsylvania, because I would be distraught. I don't know what I would do. You have a guy that's totally incompetent and wants to kill children, not just babies coming out of the womb, but children. And then you have Dr. Oz. Not a lot of choices there. And you have to do, I think that we have to do as citizens, we have to become the ones to provide. If no one's running that's good, I guess I think we have to just stand up and start doing that. I want to come back to, we'll take and put this up here. There is an article out by John Guandolo also. Now, John Guandolo, I'm going to see if I can make this larger because it's such a good article. His work, if you're not familiar with John Guandolo's work, you can find it under understandingthethreat.com, all one word, right? It is understandingthethreat.com. Okay, we have, oh my gosh, Samuel, I had something you said earlier, and I have to apologize because I wanted to bring it up. All right. I saw this earlier, and I don't want to forget it. It says, he wrote, DeSantis busing illegals to Harris and other left wings start flying them to the Mexican politician's neighborhood too. Unfortunately, you can't do that with military airplanes. And you can't do that. You can't actually do that, go into another country and drop them off, even if you're using private airplanes. The catch is it's another country. So we can't exactly do that. Now, this is where it gets interesting and why this is being done to leftists in this country. They're the ones saying, oh, we have a sanctuary city. And that's why they're flying them in. Now, I'm going to share a screen of this next article, I want to come back to what I was talking about. I again, thank you, Samuel. You've been proposing some excellent topics in there. I did. There was another one before. Yeah, let me do that other one here. Forgetting the new converts to that become violent. No one is caring why that happens. As a person who studied intelligence analysis, I ran across a large number of articles on what they call radicalization. Now, my problem with these articles, no one actually discusses the real reason for radicalization. The closest I have seen is a piece actually done. I think it was done by Stephen Coughlin in his last book. And I look at that. People are talking about radicalization as, well, it's the person misunderstanding the faith. I think they're understanding it fully. And that's where I have a problem with these de-radicalization programs. I have yet to see a successful de-radicalization program. My thoughts are that we should simply do this. Put them in a room, let them watch David Wood videos, Christian Prince videos, Usama Dakdock videos. Let them watch them till they're tired. And then start them over again. And start them over again. My purpose is, you don't leave Islam, you don't leave the thoughts of terrorism unless you choose to leave Islam. Now, I want to talk about John Guandolo's article. Again, we're talking about, are we safe? Are we safer today? So he actually wrote on this. John Guandolo wrote, in the light of 9/11, why does the Dar al-Hijra Mosque still exist? Now, for those who don't know, the Dar al-Hijra Mosque is where idiot George W. gave his speech saying Islam is peace. Wow. You got to sit there and go, oh, how stupid could you be? Isn't there where Anwar al-Awlaki was the head imam? Didn't somebody have him killed? Who was that? Could that be Obama? Yeah, think about that. The Dar al-Hijra Mosque, Islamic Center, just outside Washington, D.C., is a beehive of activity of terrorism, and its key leaders over the decades have been Hamas and Al-Qaeda leaders and supporters. Why does this place still exist? That's incredibly important. Jamal Berzinji was one of the first and most prolific Muslim Brotherhood leaders in North America and is considered the godfather of the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood. Jamal Berzinji has passed away. Think about it. When Berzinji died in 2015, jihadis across the globe mourned his death, and his funeral was held at another Muslim Brotherhood jihadi stronghold in Washington, D.C., the Adams Center. From an investigative point of view, if Berzinji touched it, it was tainted with jihad. Dar al-Hijra was founded by Jamal Berzinji. Jamal Berzinji, when you read David Galbutz's The Muslim Mafia, you discover that he considered Jamal Berzinji the head of the Muslim Brotherhood. I did too. My research came out and said the same exact thing. And, I wanted to know how he came to his conclusion. I showed him how I came to mine. And that alone was kind of mind-numbing. Let's keep going. It's something to say that we have a parent of the Muslim the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood in the States here creates a mosque, and Muslim Brotherhood is the parent of Al-Qaeda, and a president of the United States goes there. Actually, not one, but two. Obama went there also. Just kind of numbing. Dar al-Hijra's property is owned by the Muslim Brotherhood Bank, NATE, the North American Islamic Trust, which is owned, again, specifically by the Islamic Society of North America. A few terrorists who have been in leadership positions. We have Jamal Brzezinski, godfather of the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood. He was a founder of the Muslim Brotherhood organizations, NATE, Muslim Student Association, Islamic International International is I'm gonna lose my train of thoughts. You got SAR Foundation, Triple IT is what there's an I missing. That's what's driving me nuts. The International Institute of Islamic Thought, SAR Foundation, their funds disappeared. Yeah. When you go take a look at the history of how those funds disappeared, that's something to talk about right there. Anwar al-Awlaki, leader of Al-Qaeda in Yemen, Al-Qaeda recruiter, specially designated global terrorist, Imam of Dar al-Hijra. All right, Omar Abdul Rahman, the blind sheikh convicted in 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and the senior legal jurist for Al-Qaeda fundraiser for Dar al-Hijra. Musa Abu Marzouk, deputy chief for Hamas, donor to Dar al-Hijra, and partnered with mosque board members. Samir Salah, Al-Qaeda financier with Osama bin Laden's nephew. Abdullah bin Laden, nephew of Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda funder. Keep thinking about this. Mohammed Abdel al-Sheikh provided direct financial support to Osama bin Laden. Why? Again, look at this list. It goes on. I mean, I want you to think about this. Some of these names should ring bells. Abdurrahman Alamudi, convicted Al-Qaeda financier, senior mosque member. You know who else who hung out with? George W. and Clinton. Yeah. There's pictures with both presidents and this convicted Al-Qaeda financier. Are we safer? Thank you, George W. No, we're not. We are not safer. Siraj Wahhaj, unindicted co-conspirator of the 1992 World Trade Center bombing, senior U.S. Muslim Brotherhood leader, advocate of the jihad. This goes on. Father of New Mexico jihadis, fundraiser, frequent guest speaker for Dar al-Hijra. Oh, he's a frequent guest speaker for the Muslim Student Association. Yeah. So he's talking to your college kids whenever he gets a chance. Why is this place still open? That is probably one of the best questions I have seen in quite some time. It's kind of mind-numbing when you think about it. I look at some of these things and I just sit there and go, what's going on? How can we allow these things to happen? How can we just sit by and do nothing? The question is, are we doing nothing? Most of us patriots are out there trying to raise awareness. And that gets people upset. They don't want to be told what's happening. Too bad. You need to hear it. You need to hear it. You need to see that Sharia is dangerous. You need to see that what they're bringing in is dangerous. So people are still, there's a lot of books out there. This is the thing I'll say. There are a lot of books out there. My last book, The Cancer of Civilization Jihad, looks at Islamic social norms. Why? I wanted to put it under social psychology, because nobody in social psychology will do this. They're scared. They want to talk about abnormal social norms, or they want to talk about things that just don't seem normal. Well, these are things that should never seem normal. But when you look at them under the term of Islam, they are normal. Some of these things should be scary. What are we doing to make the world safer today? I can only think of one thing that has to be done. And that one thing is extremely simple. We need to share the love of Christ. We need to get out there. We ourselves need to read the Bible. We need to put it within us. Not just read it, put it here in your heart so you can share it. I'm running into kids who've never heard of Jesus. in the United States, and it's every day. It kind of blows my mind, the fact that that's a normal thing today. Never heard of the name of Jesus and living in this country. Never thought I would come into that. Never see that. It blows my mind. We have to become the purveyors of truth. We have to be the ones to get out there and share it, because nobody is doing that. What I mean by nobody, the nobodies are the politicians, the preachers who stay silent when the word Islam comes up. They pretend not to know. Oh, and those are the preachers I'll say hide from. When they don't want to talk about Islam, or they want to go take part in one of these ecumenical gatherings where people promote Islam and they don't even know it, it's time to find a new pastor. We have to be cautious. And what I'm saying is, you can't, if you got a pastor out there who's preaching this stuff, run. Find one that preaches the Bible. Find one that teaches that sin is sin. We have to be the ones that do these things. And that's the only way we will see America become safer. Yes, we need our politicians to actually do their job to make the world safer. But the question is, what can we do today? Like, the best thing I can suggest is you read the Bible. You get your kids to read the Bible too. Get them to read it on their own. Get it so you do this every day and your children do this every day. Create these habits. We're not going to survive another 20 years unless we turn back to Christ. I don't see it. I see some horrible things ahead. I would love to be wrong. I'm scared. When I look at what's happening, we have to go through 2 more years with this buffoon who has dementia running the country. Now, what does that mean? Whoever the puppet master is gets to decide what's going to happen to you and me. They've decided they're going to hire tens of thousands of IRS agents. They thought that was important. No, I would have loved for them to put that money towards the border. But no, protecting Americans is not important. Attacking Americans is important. That's what Biden's good at. Yet, again, it all comes down to, what are we doing ourselves? That's, again, this is I foremost put this out as a Christian news show. We have to be the ones to take the gospel to the lost. Now, what does that mean? You go to the Starbucks, you sit down for a coffee, find a way to share something positive, okay, and get to know the person. And when there's an opportunity to share the love of Christ, you do that. Take advantage of those situations. You go to the local coffee shop. It doesn't have to be a Starbucks. You go wherever you're going. We have to be the ones to share the truth. We can't let other people do that, because what they're doing, I say we can't let other people doing that. What do I mean? Right now we have things being taught in public schools that are lies. I have serious issues with that. They want to teach things that just never happen. They want to teach kids that because of their color of their skin, they're oppressed, or they're an oppressor based on the color of their skin, nothing more. I have problems with this, severe problems. They want to tell kids how to do math in a way that frustrates them. That's that Common Core crap. There's so many things out there that are causing harm. They want us to teach that Islam is nothing, Islam is peaceful. Sorry, I don't get that one. Islam means submission. That does not mean peace. And again, that's telling educators are forced to tell these lies. They don't exactly have choices. That's something you need to understand. A lot of educators do not have these choices. It's forced upon them by their boards of education, by their state board of education. And again, there is no national control. It is solely on your state and your local board of education. This is the stuff we have to be concerned about. Is the truth getting out? Our children today have no concept of doing research in high school. They graduate from high school having no concept of how to write a research paper. Why? Because they don't have time to do it, because they got to do all these other things. That's something to think about. They have now taught our children a lack of doing quality research. By the time, I can't tell you how many research papers I'd written by the time I graduated from high school. I understood what research was. I understood how to do it. I got to my bachelor's program. I was doing pretty good at research. That's where I fell in, at some point in college, I fell in love with doing research. I get to do my grad studies. I'm not only good at it, I know secrets about how to do it faster. So I end up teaching people. Okay, and I'm still teaching people how to do their research faster. What is going on? Well, this is what the importance is. We as Christians, we as believers, we as patriots have to be the ones getting the truth out, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter. I'm not a fan of Twitter. LinkedIn, wherever. We have to be the ones getting the information out. One of the places I'm going to tell you to look today, go hook up with Project Veritas on YouTube. Share their videos out. All important stuff. There's a lot of new information coming out on the dangers of the vax. What's interesting, these new studies that are coming out, when I say interesting, it's kind of mind-numbing because it agrees with everybody who said, I don't want the jab. Oh, so all of a sudden these programs that enforced getting the jab are now being sued because the jab is more dangerous than COVID. Oh, you know what? That was a news article today. I think it was the jab is 93. It was like 90% or more, or a couple 100% more dangerous than the jab. I'd have to go back and double check the article. I saw it. If we're not getting these articles out to people, find a way in your church to put up news. Find a place if we can share this information. I think this is all important because the news that's put out to our people, to patriots, to the average human being, is full of misinformation and lies. The Drudge Report. I looked at that today. It's crap. You know who owns it today? Google. Think about that. Do they want you to know the truth? No. What have they done to Google? They've destroyed it. You can't use it as a decent search engine anymore. You can't. You have to use things like DuckDuckGo. I recommend it. I don't recommend Google to anyone anymore. They should be losing money hand and fist because they have destroyed the one thing that they had that was successful. I'm going to say good night, everybody, early. Thank you for listening. Darcy, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah. Do your research. Do your own reading. And get your hands on every available source possible. And find out what's going on. Don't just listen to us or your politicians or your friends. Do your own research. Thank you.
I became a lover of research by doing research. And I told, one of the things I was talking to kids today about is there is fun in doing research, and there's another place in research where you start going down a dark hole, because Research does one thing for you. It makes you smarter. It makes you more knowledgeable, but it also takes you to learn how much you really don't know. I think that's actually important today. We need to know what we don't know. Not many people think about that. What I do know Jesus is on the throne. Jesus is on the throne. And that's all that matters. So let's keep him first. And let's help him be first in others' lives by telling them about this wonderful Lord that we serve, the wonderful God that died on the cross so we could be saved. God bless you
Amen.
all. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
What a great God we serve.